Before we begin this chilling journey into one of history's darkest mysteries, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Because what happened on that mountain remains unexplained to this day. In February 1959, 9 experienced Russian hikers set out to conquer the icy slopes of the Ural Mountains. The group, led by Igor Dyatlov, was strong, skilled, and well-equipped. They were all students or graduates from the Ural Polytechnical Institute, and this wasn't their first rodeo. They had survived blizzards, mountain storms, and sub-zero nights before. Nothing suggested this expedition would be any different. They planned to reach a peak named Otorten, a word from the local Mansi language meaning "don't go there." A warning, perhaps. When they failed to send a telegram signaling their return, their families grew worried. A search and rescue operation was launched. What the rescuers discovered on February 26 would shock the world and spark a mystery that endures for over 60 years. The tent was found first, perched on the slopes of a mountain, ominously named Kolet Siakal, or Dead Mountain. It was partially buried in snow and abandoned. But the strangest part, it had been slashed open from the inside. Boots, warm coats, food supplies, and their equipment, all of it was still there, neatly arranged. It looked as if the hikers, in a state of sheer panic, had cut their way out and fled into the frozen night, half-dressed into brutal 30 degrees below zero temperatures. Why would experienced hikers abandon their only shelter and supplies? What could possibly have terrified them so much that they chose to face certain death in the freezing darkness over staying inside their tent? The snow outside the tent told an even stranger story. The search team found a trail of footprints leading away from the camp, down the slope towards a dense forest. But these weren't the frantic tracks of people running for their lives. The footprints were calm, orderly, and placed as if the group was walking in single file. Some belonged to people wearing only socks. Some were completely barefoot. Think about that for a moment. Choosing to walk barefoot through deep snow during a harsh Siberian winter. The tracks continued for almost a kilometer before finally disappearing, swallowed by the forest. What could make 9 seasoned mountaineers leave their only shelter and provisions voluntarily under such brutal, impossible conditions? The clues were piling up, but the picture they painted was becoming more and more bizarre. The search for the hikers themselves began. The first 2 bodies, those of Yuri Krivonoshenko and Yuri Doroshenko, were found under a large, ancient cedar tree at the edge of the forest. They had not finished getting dressed. Their hands were raw and scraped, and the branches on the cedar tree above them were broken up to a height of 5 meters. This suggested they frantically tried to climb the tree, maybe to escape something on the ground, or to get a better view of something coming from the direction of the camp. Nearby, the remains of a small fire were found. Ashes and charred branches showed they had desperately tried to fight off the killing cold. But forensic examination revealed something disturbing. Their hands and faces had strange, unexplainable marks, and a peculiar brown-tan discoloration, not from frostbite, but from something else entirely. Something the medical examiner couldn't identify. 3 more bodies were found a few days later, scattered at intervals between the cedar tree and the abandoned tent. It was Igor Dyatlov, the group's leader, Sina Kulmogoroba, and Rustem Slobodin. Their positions suggested they were desperately trying to crawl back to the camp, back to the illusion of safety. They had succumbed to hypothermia, but Slobodin had a fractured skull. The injury was significant, yet it wasn't considered fatal. It seemed they fought until their very last breath to make it back. But where were the other 4? The search continued, but the spring thaw was setting in, making the task nearly impossible. For 2 long months, the fate of the remaining hikers was a complete mystery. Then, on May 4th, the final 4 bodies were discovered, and the case took a horrifying turn. They were found much deeper in the forests, buried under 4 meters of snow in a makeshift den dug into a ravine, and their injuries were unlike anything the investigators had ever seen. Nicolas Thibault-Brignoles had suffered a catastrophic skull fracture. Lyudmila Dubinina and Semyon Zolitaryov had massive chest trauma, with multiple ribs crushed. The force required to inflict these injuries was described as being similar to a high-speed car crash. Yet, shockingly, there were almost no external wounds on their bodies. No bruises, no cuts. It was as if they had been crushed by an immense, invisible pressure. But the horror didn't end there. Dubinina was found missing her tongue, her eyes, and part of her lips. And to top it all off, some of their clothing was found to contain significant traces of radioactive contamination. Investigators were stunned. These injuries could not be caused by hypothermia. They couldn't be explained by an animal attack, and certainly not by a simple fall. Something else, something terrifying and powerful, had happened on that mountain. The official Soviet investigation was concluded just a few weeks later, abruptly and without a clear resolution. The final verdict. The hikers died as a result of an unknown compelling force. That's it. An unknown compelling force. No further details. No credible theory. No closure for the grieving families. And then, the case files were classified, locked away from public view for decades. The entire area around the pass was sealed off to the public for 3 years. Why the secrecy? What did the government not want the world to see? Did they know what that compelling force was? The silence from the authorities only fueled decades of speculation and a host of wild theories. Let's look at some of the most prominent theories, because none of them fully match all the strange facts of the case. The first and most common explanation is an avalanche. This theory suggests a slab of snow slid down, forcing the hikers to cut their way out of the tent and flee, but it doesn't match the evidence. The footprints were calm, not panicked. The tent itself wasn't crushed, and its poles were still standing. And most importantly, an avalanche can't explain the massive internal injuries, the missing tongue, or the radiation. Another popular theory involves secret military tests. The area was rumored to be used for testing new weapons, like parachute mines that detonate in the air. An explosion could cause the traumatic injuries, the panic, and even the radiation. But why would the military test weapons so close to a known hiking route? And why would they leave the bodies to be found? Some have proposed a natural phenomenon called this is a low-frequency sound, below the range of human hearing, that can be generated by certain wind patterns, like a Kármán vortex street. Infrasound is known to induce feelings of intense panic, dread, and nausea, which could explain why the hikers fled their tent in terror. But could it crush bones and cause radioactive contamination? Highly unlikely. Of course, there are more exotic theories. The local Mansi people spoke of a mink, a yeti-like creature that protects the mountains, but no animal tracks other than those of the hikers were ever found. Others suggest a secret KGB mission gone wrong, or that the hikers stumbled upon something they weren't supposed to see. And then there's the extraterrestrial angle. Other hikers and locals reported seeing strange orange orbs and glowing lights in the sky over the region on the night of the incident. Even the lead investigator later admitted in an interview that he suspected UFOs were involved, but there is no hard evidence to support any of this. No single theory solves every bizarre detail. In 2019, more than 60 years after the incident, the Russian government reopened the case, promising to finally solve the mystery with modern technology. Their official conclusion, a rare type of slab avalanche, combined with poor visibility, forced the hikers to leave the tent, and they subsequently froze to death. Case closed. Again. But experts and researchers worldwide immediately rejected this conclusion. Why? Because it still doesn't explain the facts. The slope where the tent was pitched was too gentle for an avalanche. Modern radar analysis showed no evidence of a snowslide, and it completely ignores the bizarre and violent injuries, the radiation, and the missing tongue. The official story feels more like a cover-up than an explanation. The mystery is still very much a mystery. More than 60 years later, the Dyatlov Pass Incident remains one of the most baffling and terrifying unsolved cases in modern history. A group of 9 skilled hikers, a remote and desolate mountain, a violent force that no one could identify, and a government silence that has lasted for decades. What really happened on Dead Mountain? Was it a natural disaster, a military secret, or something else entirely? The truth, it seems, is still out there, buried under the snow. If you want more true mysteries, unsolved cases, and hidden truths, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications, because the story of the Dyatlov Pass is far from over.